Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everyone. I am so delighted and fulfilled and uplifted to see this packed house. Thank you so much for being part of this evening, this part one of our three-part series, Stories of Belonging. You belong. Thank you so much for making TI what it is with your presence. I am... Thanks, Mom. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce our artist in residence tonight. Emma Tattenabaum-Fine is a comedy-leading writer, performer, director, and producer. She has appeared as host of HQ Trivia and can be seen on Netflix Explained. She has written for Comedy Central and New York Theater Workshop. Emma has written extensively about growing up raised by two moms in HuffPost's Queer Voices and in the books The Kids and If These Ovaries Could Talk. She is the author of Trash Mermaid, an illustrated book of poems and short stories. I love this book of hers. She has a few copies tonight. You might have to order some more if you want one, but you can see her about that after. And the solo play, Before I Leave for Lunastrasse, an audio drama available on her Substack. In 2023, she co-created, produced, and performed the Mr. Rogers Variety Hour, a show that Time Out New York listed as among the weekend's best NYC happenings. Emma performed as a host and a storyteller in the 2024 New York Comedy Festival. You can read her latest stories and essays by subscribing to her Substack, emmatattenbaumfine.substack.com, named a featured Substack of 2022. Of all these accolades and distinctions, the most important of all is that Emma is my bestie since we were 7. We grew up together, and it's really my joy and honor to welcome you, Emma, to Temple Israel.
Thank you, Julia. You all, I've been looking forward to this for 2 weeks. I've thought of nothing else. I'm so honored and happy to be here, and you're all so adorable. I pictured this moment, and of course, every congregation is special, but this one is so cute. You're just so cute. We made this a 3-part series because my hope is that I can make storytelling look so fun tonight that you all want to do it. And I know you have crazy stories. I can see it in your eyes, especially yours. Little unhinged there. I want to make this look so fun that you want to join me on the 26th to do the workshop and on April 4th to tell your own stories in front of the congregation. Storytelling is such an ancient and magical art form. Judaism is ancient, but storytelling is ancienter. Storytelling is me standing up in front of you, sharing my stories with you like I will tonight, is one of the oldest exchanges we could possibly have, besides... Oh, yeah. This echo is strange. Is it okay for you? Oh, okay, great. How's this lighting-wise? Eternal! So as I was saying, now that I'm under the ancient flame, the eternal flame, storytelling is the most ancient exchange we could possibly have with one another, besides prostitution, which is not part of the 3-part series. Want to set that boundary really early. Now, we all have a lot in common, all of us. Most of us are Jewish, but we have another very profound and sacred thing in common, which is Julia Cadrain. As Julia said, we grew up together. I met Julia when I was 6 years old, little fact check. I was 6, Julia was 9. She's a little older. I was 6, she was 9, and Julia was a very bossy little girl. She was a bossy little girl. And of course, later we would call that leadership. Leadership qualities. And now in this sort of post-woke, post-feminist era, we can just call her what she was, which is a tyrant. She was a tyrant, and that's okay. Authoritarian leaders are popular all over the world. It's okay that she was a tyrant. But it did shape me. So when I met Julia and I was 6, her little sister Leah, hopefully on the live stream watching, her little sister was 6 as well, and we 3 were a trio. It was Julia, Leah, and me. Julia was the oldest, and her tyrannical qualities showed themselves very early. The 3 of us were in a little club called Caboodles of Fun and Laughter, which sounds a little sinister, doesn't it? KFL was the abbreviation, sounds like KGB. Caboodles of Fun and Laughter was a club of just the 3 of us, but it wasn't a given that you could stay in this club. You had to prove your allegiance to Julia. How did we do this? Julia, at any given time, had between 16 and 200 stuffed animals. I think what she was doing was stealing them from her little sisters. So there was a rotating crew of stuffed animals, and they all had these incredibly esoteric names. They were not intuitive names. They were names like Mr. Snugglesworth the bear or Kevin the fish. They weren't like Polly the polar bear. And Julia said that in order for me and Leah to stay in the club, we had to memorize and recite every single name of the 16 to 200 stuffed animals whose names would occasionally change at random. Now, Leah and I would wait in the hallway outside Julia's bedroom. This is going to be a Purim show, but I have to get the Julia stuff out first because you won't get this intel anywhere else. So Julia would be waiting in her room. Leah and I would be pacing nervously outside the hallway. And I'd say to Leah, like, what if we don't get these names right? What if we're not in the club? And she said, well, Emma, then you're going to have to go down the street to your house. You won't be able to come over. And then this look of terror falls across Leah, and she says, what if I don't get the names right? I live here. And I said, you're going to have to live outside. You're not going to be able to even be Julia's sister anymore. So Leah had a list of all the names: Kevin the fish, Mr. Snugglesworth the teddy bear. Leah could read and write, so she could study the list. I couldn't read or write, so our preparation looked really different. Leah was looking over all the names. I was going, I can't read! Everyone has their own process. And then Julia, at the appointed hour, would open her bedroom door and say, KFL will see you now. Who would like to go first? Leah and I were both very good students, and I'm so relieved and proud to tell you that we memorized every friggin' stuffed animal's name. But the adrenaline and the sheer terror of that experience and Julia's tyranny has really shaped me into the neurotic woman that I am today. Later, when Julia, this whole show isn't about Julia, right? I gotta tell you these things, because if I don't tell you where you're gonna hear it, she's not gonna tell you. So a couple years later, Julia's 12, I'm 9, and we're in the same bedroom where the quiz took place. She's sitting on her Princess Day bed. I think that's the brand name. It was a Princess Day bed, and I was standing on the carpet just ahead of her, where I'd taken the quiz years before, and Julia goes, entertain me. And I said, what should I do? I mean, Leah was at her saxophone lesson during this. I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And she said, I don't know, just like be silly. So I had just seen Mr. Bean, so I would do the stairs, which was a little easier to do when I was 9. And then I would, like be an octopus. And she would laugh and laugh. I mean, anything I did, it was hilarious because Julia wasn't allowed to watch TV as a kid. I know. And so anything I would do, Diana's notes, but she wasn't allowed to watch TV. anything I would do, Julia would go, "What show is that from?" And I would say, "It's not from a show, Julia. I'm the show." So I was the entire entertainment industry for Julia. So it's not a surprise that I should find myself here. Now, when Julia and I talked about a Purim show, I have to admit that my feelings about Purim were somewhat impoverished. I didn't have a wealth of imagination around it because Purim to me has a few associations prior to learning about it. I would, first of all, because it's a Jewish holiday, I would never know when it was coming. Would always be like, Purim! And it was there. Typically, Purim would come when it would start to get a little warmer, and then I would notice an Orthodox man where I live in Brooklyn, and he'd be, he'd have payas and the full garb, and next to him would be a tiny Spider-Man, and I'd be like, what in the, oh, Purim! And then next to them would be like a little itty-bitty Power Ranger and an even tinier Snow White and sort of Russian nesting dolls of characters. And that's an association I have with Purim. Another is when I used to run the youth group for a congregation in Brooklyn, and I would have to get all the teenagers to run the carnival for the little kids. This is a hard job. Some of you have done it. The pitch is basically, I know you're 16. I know you think of nothing but getting into college. I know you're so depressed about climate change. I know you're on Discord and TikTok till like 2 a.m. and COVID ruined the last shred of social skills you have, and you just want Sunday to hang out with your friends, but would you consider taking 4 hours to run a carnival for some screaming children? And the rabbi would always say, the teens love running the carnival. And I'm like, Rabbi, empirically, this is not proving to be true. Rabbi was like, no, the teens love it. It's so meaningful. I'm like, show me the teens who want to run this carnival. So that's my other association with Purim. Kind of a troubling holiday for me so far. My last association prior to working on this was explaining Hamantashen to Christians. I love curiosity and I love to educate. I think it's because I'm short. People are like, that's an approachable Jew. She'll tell me about Hamantashen. So the Gentiles love to ask me, what is this cookie? And I say, there was this guy with a silly hat, and so we put poppy seeds in a cookie, and you could Google it. I don't have to be the main resource. So this is what I was thinking about Purim. I was like, these aren't like great associations. They kind of have to do with like obligation and annoyance. So I said to Julia and the wonderful cantor Becky Mann, I did not grow up with Becky, but she's so young, she's growing up with me now. I said to Becky and Julia on our Zoom call, what does this holiday mean to you? And I realized who I sounded like, which is the wicked child at Passover. I was so embarrassed because, just a quick digression, I have, material for every holiday. I always thought everybody assumed I was the wicked child at Passover. When we would get to that part of our very inclusive and snuggly Reform Haggadah, I would be like, everyone is thinking about me, the wicked child. I thought this till I was like 19. I was mortified. And I don't know what Haggadah you have. Probably some of you have this very famous Reform Haggadah. It's so like welcoming and lovely, but when you get to the wicked child, she's drawn like Satan's spawn. She's got like fiery hair and an upturned nose, and she looks like a sociopath. So just to get to know you all, this I think is a good icebreaker. Who identified with the wicked child? That's so good. Zach, you did. Okay, so there's a few. That's good. Who identified? You can change your answer. Wicked child? Okay. Think about it. Simple child. Who's a simple child? Yes, I see that in you, sir. Simple child. What about the child who doesn't know enough to ask? That's going to be whoever's well moisturized. It's probably... And then I guess the rest of you are the intelligent children. It's very nice. So I asked the two of them, because the other thing about the wicked child is, and I guess I have a thing about this. I won't go on about it forever, but the response in my Haggadah is like, well, if you had been in Egypt with us, you'd have crossed to freedom. And I always felt like the wicked child has something going on. Like, be kind to her. Why are they so saucy to her? So that's what I thought as I got older. But anyways, to Becky and Julia, I said, tell me, what does Purim mean to you? I would really like to know. Now, Becky and Julia just lit right up. They are so nerdy, but also they love Judaism and they love Jews, and thank God, because somebody has to. They were so sweet and answered so beautifully. This is what they told me that Purim is about. Purim is about courage. Purim is about integrity. Purim is about female heroines. Relatable, because all my stories involve a female heroine. They said Purim is about advocating for yourself. Purim is about protecting your community. Purim is about the still small voice that tells you what's right. And Purim is about this beautiful idea from the book of Esther. Maybe you were made for this moment. It's a great answer, Julia. It was a very productive Zoom call. Those last two really stayed with me. The still small voice that guides you, and maybe you were made for this moment. So I'll be sharing two stories with you tonight that play with these ideas, the still small voice, and maybe you were made for this moment. And then lastly, the cornerstone of my personal Jewish practice, which is entertaining Julia. That will be underpinning the whole night, because the fate of Jews rests with me, and if Julia's not pleased, I don't know what will become of us. So, my first story for you, of two, is about the still small voice. Tell me, am I out? I'm out of the light, like, now? Okay. This story about the still small voice is called Basra Fairy Tale. Basra Fairy Tale. There are many terrible mothers out there. You throw a stone, you hit a bad mom, as the saying goes. There are deceitful moms, neglectful moms, narcissistic moms. This will be my Mother's Day material. Moms who shouldn't have had children, no offense to any of you. But that's not the kind of mom that I have. I, in fact, was fortunate enough to get two really good moms, statistically very unlikely, actually incredible. Two good moms. And this story will feature both of my moms, but it will mostly feature my mother, Margie, who is here, but don't look at her. Give her privacy. There she is, a wallflower. So my mother, Margie, is like a really incredible mom. She's like the kind of mom that other kids would come to when their own parents would disappoint them. She's pragmatic. She worked as a project manager at an insurance company. It was a really boring job, but she managed to lead everyone and make them feel seen while she was there. She's the kind of mom who 13 years ago at her retirement party, various coworkers of hers would come up to me while I was serving them punch, and they would tell me how they'd gotten a work visa and come from India, and my mom made them feel that the United States of America was a place that they could thrive. Yeah. I know, like, this is like a sterling mom here, okay? But my mother has one flaw. How fortunate for my story that it's only one. My mother has one flaw, and it's this thing she has with Hondas, the car. She keeps Hondas for too long, like decades. And it's because of this belief she has that Hondas are very good cars. They're very well made. She's not like a hoarder in general or a miser. It's just Hondas where this neurosis comes out. So this Honda thing, I noticed it early. I noticed it when I was in 6th grade. We had at the time this little red, dusty red Honda with scabs of rust all over it. It looked like an open wound. And Margie would drive this Honda to pick me up from King Philip Middle School in West Hartford, Connecticut. And the children would point at it and laugh. And that was their right. This car also had a gay pride flag bumper sticker on the back. This car was humiliating for me and for gay rights as a movement. No gay person wanted to be affiliated with this car, except my mother, Margie. My mother, Ray, didn't want to be seen with this disgusting car. She had her own car. She was like, this is Margie's thing. We eventually were able to convince her to outgrow this scab of a car. But what did she do? She bought herself a used silver Honda. She said it was champagne colored, but you could put lipstick on it. It was still a used Honda. Now, she got this used when I was in high school. The story I'm telling you takes place when I'm 29 years old. So this is now 10 years ago. I'm 29 in this story. The Honda is now 19. It's my little sister. This Honda is almost old enough to drink. The Honda starts to have a lot of challenges. It doesn't always start. The windshield wipers are TBD. You just have to hope it doesn't rain. The air conditioning is very, very broken. But my mom, because of her thing about Hondas, her one flaw, she's always like, it's something you're doing when you come home from Brooklyn and you drive it. It doesn't happen to anyone else. Ray's not driving it. She's the only one. Anyways, she's like, it's something you're doing. Now, mostly this car isn't my problem because I live in Brooklyn now, and at that time, I lived in Brooklyn, so I never had to drive. But the car became my problem because I got a boyfriend, and we wanted to have a romantic weekend in Providence, Rhode Island. The plan was he'd get there first, wait for me, and I'd get us the car. We both were living in Brooklyn. Neither of us had a car. So I said, I'm a grown-up. I'm worthy of love. I'm going to get us this car from West Hartford, drive it to Providence. We'll have a romantic weekend with our very own car. And Margie assures me it will be safe. And I'm grateful to have a car. I turn onto I-84, and terror overtakes me. Not only am I afraid of this car, I'm afraid of driving. Less so now, but 10 years ago, I had a terrible fear of driving. The car didn't help. But when you're an anxious person, it's hard to pick which thing is the scariest. It kind of just forms one tangle of fear. So I'm on I-84, and I have the GPS screaming at me because I also have no sense of direction. It's a perfect storm. The GPS is screaming at me. The AC is broken. I want to have the windows open, but I can't have the windows open because I won't be able to hear the GPS. So I have to close the windows in the July heat with no AC. It becomes like a terrarium in there. There's the sweat from the heat, there's the sweat from my fear, and there's just the feedback loop of fear sweat. I'm wearing a mini skirt because I want to make this I want my boyfriend to fall in love with me, and it's a great outfit for that end, but I'm sticking to every friggin' part of the seat. And the way the car starts to smell is like, I know you're done eating, so you know that when the Soviets and the Americans at different times would take a monkey and put it in a spacesuit and close the visor and shoot that monkey off into space and name him like Ilya or Sasha? That's how it smelled in the car, like a monkey trapped in an astronaut suit, hurtling through space to an uncertain fate. So I'm smelling like a frightened monkey, but I'm getting it done. Like, I'm conquering my fear because life is about facing your fears, and I want to get to my boyfriend who's already there waiting for me in Providence. He says it's a really nice Airbnb. I can't wait to see it. I'm facing my fear. I'm 45 minutes into a 90-minute drive. I'm doing this. I'm pressing on the gas, I'm going 75 miles an hour, and then suddenly I'm pressing on the gas and I'm going 65 miles an hour. Then I'm pressing on the gas, still just as hard, and I'm going 55. Then I'm going 45. Then I'm going 35. I'm going 25. I have about 10 seconds of lead time to realize that all my fears about driving are to be validated. I'm in the middle lane. My foot is heavy on the gas. I'm trying to turn the steering wheel to get to the right lane or to get onto the grassy knoll on the side. Just to get anywhere would be great. And I'm swearing profusely at my mother at this point. Now, I don't know what happens in the Jewish afterlife. I don't think any of us know. I think that's why proselytizing is so difficult for us. We're so unclear on it. But if I had died in that moment, I would have gone to the unknown Jewish afterlife swearing at my mother. That's not kosher. Fortunately, I didn't die. I survived. Thank you. I pressed the hazard lights on, and with enormous trepidation, I went to remove the seatbelt. My hand is sweaty and shaking, and I move my butt from the driver's seat over the cup holders onto the passenger side, leaving a snail trail of terrified butt miniskirt perspiration. The car is at an angle between the middle and the right lane. I get myself out to safety on the grass, clenching my phone, and I look and survey the disaster that is this car. The car is blinking, and it's making like a Martha Graham shape across the two lanes. This car is like vamping. It is a mortifying Margie Honda to the last. There's a sign next to me that says, Basra. I've been marooned in the magisterially named town of Basra, and I'm in my miniskirt and a low-cut shirt chosen for my boyfriend that can now be appreciated by the entire interstate. I'm texting my boyfriend to keep him apprised of this unfolding nightmare, and I call my mom's. Ray picks up. I tell her what's happened. She is so livid that she can't speak. And I hear her go, "Here!" to Margie. Ray can usually find the words, but she was so angry. Margie calls AAA, and I'm waiting there for the next 35 minutes. All the mosquitoes have heard that I'm frightened and sweaty and half naked. They're thrilled. I have to pee, but I can't. There's no cover, and I'm half naked to begin with. I would be like, so I can't go. 35 minutes later, I see my mom's on the other side of the interstate, heading that way, coming around, and they're honking at me. And I'm like, my family is a clown show. This is a full-on clown show. They're coming around. AAA arrives like 2 minutes before them. When AAA gets there, they pull the car off a little bit to the side so it doesn't kill anybody. And Ray goes to talk to AAA. Margie comes out to have a moment with me. I have never, at 29, seen my mother like this. Her head is hung, her tailbone is tucked. She looks like a dog who has been kicked repeatedly and then given the gift of speech. She hangs her arm heavy on my shoulder. She seems so tired, and she says, I am so sorry. And I say, yeah, what is your weird thing with Hondas? And she says, I don't know, but I have a problem. I would never put you in harm's way, but then I definitely did. So the car is surveyed by the AAA guy. And now I told my friend this story, and he said, well, Emma, what was wrong with the car? And I said, no, sir, incorrect question. What was right with the car? There was nothing right with the car. The car at this point was a sauna that you could have a nervous breakdown in. It was the only service it was providing. AAA was about to, take it to be incinerated, vaporized. There's no further story for this car. But first we took out a summer's worth of lawn chairs and towels and the cooler filled with champagne that I'm planning to bring to my boyfriend. This cooler is now like 100 degrees. Margie holds up one of the towels demurely so I can publicly urinate on the side of the road. She does this to atone. And my parents chauffeur me the rest of the way to my grown-up romantic weekend with my boyfriend in Providence. And throughout the drive, Margie's this is in the nicer car. Margie's reckoning with herself. Ray is reckoning with Margie. I'm so happy to be in the air conditioning, not driving. We get to the house. They haven't met my boyfriend yet at this time, so they're like, oh, pay no attention to the women behind the curtain. Sorry, we almost killed your girlfriend. You two have fun. I go in, and I sit with my boyfriend, Luke. We sit at these granite counters in this beautifully appointed Airbnb, and we pop these champagnes, sort of lukewarm, pop these Corbel champagnes, and we toast to one another. Champagne tastes so good when you've nearly died. And we lock eyes, and we cheers to being alive, to being together. And I'm looking at his gray-blue eyes and his, sexy gray tank top. And I'm like, wow, he's so hot. And he makes me feel so safe. He takes all the terror of the day away. And I think back on this day that I've had, how I knew the car wasn't safe, how I knew this man was someone I was falling in love with. And I thought during this romantic moment, I really gotta stop putting my mom on a pedestal. I need to start putting my own still small voice front and center because my instincts are good, and this is my life. So we spend that weekend looking around Providence, exploring by foot. We don't have a car. We fall more deeply in love, and that weekend is the beginning of me listening to my still small voice. So by a show of hands, because I do want to get to know you, because we're going to be working together, I want to know, sometimes, always, never, do you listen to your still small voice? Is that a yes for some time? Always. Okay, so she's got stories. Okay, so who always listens to their still small voice? I want to know those stories. Wow, like your gurus. That's amazing. Your prophets. Who never, ever listens to their still small voice? Because that would generate good stories too. Who sometimes listens? Yeah, that's going to be the middle of the bell curve. Yeah. It's a work in progress. All right, I've done a lot of surveys lately. 0 to 5. 5 being you would definitely recommend your still small voice to a friend. 0, your still small voice would get people killed. Who's a 5? You would definitely, yeah, I think yours is cultivated. Any clergy people should be up with 5. 4, you would, yeah, your still small voice is serviceable. Zach says yes. Okay, yeah. 3, still small voice you would recommend. I love your outfit, so you could recommend outfits. 2, who would maybe kind of sometimes? 1, 0, your still small voice would kill people. I knew you were unhinged, didn't I say? Didn't I? I read people very well, so. My last story is about this beautiful idea from the book of Esther. Maybe you were made for this moment. This story also features Margie. I know I'm obsessed. What can I say? Okay. So this story about maybe you were made for this moment is called The Gallon Club. Does anyone need more food or booze before I begin this next story? Yes, you do. Advocate for yourself. It's Purim. Be courageous. The booze is gone? I was promised it would be unlimited for my audience. Oh my God. But look at how much water they gave me. And Julia had these little postcards for me everywhere. You guys I really do feel like I've always belonged here. It's rare when like a slogan really works. It's so true. Okay, so this story is called The Gallon Club, and it's about this idea maybe you were made for this moment. The Gallon Club. Here we go. When I was 12, my mother, Margie, she started to donate blood at her job, and she'd come home with this fabulously jewel-toned bandage around her arm, and she would tell me, I just donated blood. And I was 12, and I thought, that is so cool. I want to do that when I grow up. That's like a really awesome thing you can do to save lives. I was proud of her, and it seemed so powerful. And I thought, when I'm a grown-up, I'm going to do that. So I got to be 19, and I got my first taste of the adult world in the form of an internship in television. Now, this was my dream internship, but I was quite disillusioned by this experience. I found that there was a lot of waste, a lot of paper waste, a lot of food waste, and a lot of celebrity worship. People were obsessed with these, like, really mediocre people of bad character. When you met them up close, it was like, ugh, I don't even like this person. So I don't know what I expected with a TV internship. I don't know if I thought I was going to see the face of God, but it wasn't that. It was very disillusioning. And I had the last day of that internship, I did it for a semester, and the last day, I was walking around my college campus, and I see a guy in a, like a Feed the Children smock. This was Plan International. It was a bright yellow vest. And he saw me, and he said, do you want to save the children? And I was like, I want that so bad. Like, you read me so well. That's exactly what I want to do on the last day of this vapid internship. So I hand over my parents' credit card. And we start sponsoring a child named Nima Donfa in Guinea-Bissau. We sponsor this child for 10 years, from when she's 8 to 18. I got letters from Nima Donfa in the mail. I'm sending her stuff about the shows I'm doing. She's sending me pictures of her and her mother looking like this. It's kind of the relationship you have when you sponsor a child. But my parents, they didn't stop sponsoring the kid, but when they first saw this recurring charge on the credit card, they were like, what the hell is this? And I said, well, we're sponsoring a child. And they're like, no, you can't take our credit card and commit acts of philanthropy. It's for like college expenses. So to their credit, we continued to sponsor her, but I was told, like, you can't just take our credit card and do this. You're gonna have to find some other way to do nice things. So I started to think at 19, well, what's gonna be my impact? What can I do without money that will be magnanimous and good? And what's my tzedakah vibe gonna be? And pretty soon, a blood donation drive comes to my college. This is my opportunity. I'm gonna donate blood. I'm finally old enough. So I recruit my buddy Andrew because I figured 2 blood donations are better than 1, which is true. And the plan is, because we're 19, we're gonna donate blood and then go to our cardio dance class right after. Just peak youth. I bring Andrew, and I've told him that, like, this is the most magical thing you can do. It makes you feel connected to the whole planet, and the blood that flows through you connects you to every other person. I've, like, really evangelized this activity. We get to the donation center, and they have this form with all these questions. I didn't know this was gonna happen. The questions are like, have you been to Moldova? And I'm like, no, who goes there? Other questions are like, have you encountered foot and mouth disease? And I'm like, ew, I hope not. And then there's this question, have you had sex with men who have had sex with other men? Now, I haven't had sex with anybody, men or otherwise. My friend Andrew at 19 had just started to come out to like a few friends, barely come out. And he had, in fact, had sex with men who'd had sex with other men. I didn't know this question was gonna be on here. I'm like so apologetic. I feel terrible. I had sold this as like the best feeling of inclusion you could possibly have. Andrew is gonna go wait outside while I donate blood, and then we'll go to our cardio dance class. That's still the plan. I feel terrible. He takes this with grace, like as gracefully as you can in the face of homophobia. But I donate blood, and besides the mortifying Andrew part, donating blood is everything I hoped my first time would be. I feel so connected to the whole human race. I feel so strong. Highly recommend it if you can. I had a friggin' blast. I leave with this fabulous bright-colored bandage on my arm, exactly as I was told it would be. And I do go to a cardio dance class and do push-ups all the way down to the floor and feel nothing. It was a simpler time. I can't wait to do it again. So in a couple months, when there's another blood drive at my school, I go alone this time to avoid harming anyone. And I'm on the gurney donating, and across from me is another young woman my age. And, you know, it's a collegiate experience. I just want to give her a little salute, like, hey, girl, I see you doing good for other people. Tzedakah vibes. So I go to give her a little salute, and I see that her lips are incredibly pale. And I'm a bit lightheaded myself. That happens. It's normal. So I can't quite trust myself. Then I see that her eyes are kind of like flickering. And then I start to realize that she's folding her arm in like this, where the needle is, and blood starts spurting. And then I'm like, you know, she's not really donating blood so much as bleeding. It's a small but key difference. She's bleeding. And I'm like, no, this isn't just that I'm lightheaded. And through this like stupor and this fog of taffy, I'm yelling, help, someone help this girl. And all the attendants are very far away. It's a big gymnasium, they're far away. And I can hear them in the distance talking about a soccer match. They're like, yo, did you see that match? I don't know how men talk soccer, but it's like, there was a goalie and the ball, you know, you fill in the dialogue. But they're far away, they don't hear me. She's spurting blood, she starts to have a seizure. And I'm like, help the girl, somebody come. Someone does come, and then soon a whole fleet of people are coming over. I turn my head away. to give her like privacy. I don't know. I want to complete my donation without passing out myself. They stabilize this girl, and when it's time for my donation to be wrapped up, the attendant comes over to me and he says, "You've saved my job. And you saved her life." Sort of an afterthought. And I'm like, wow, this is like a real ego trip. Not only am I saving 3 lives, I'm also saving this guy's job, preventing this woman from dying. I've prevented a substantial lawsuit for my college. And you might think at this point, I'd be like, wow, this is an activity that causes seizures in women my age. You might think I'd be like, I'm gonna take a pause on donating blood, but I don't. I think at that point I become trauma bonded to donating blood, and I'm like, I can't get enough of this. This is for the bravest, most incredible women out there. I start donating blood as often as I can. I get inducted into the Gallon Club. Does anyone here know about the Gallon Club? It's a really special thing. They send you t-shirts, water bottles, which I love. They send you an actual card. It's for people who donate blood a lot. Now, I love the Gallon Club because unlike a religion or a cult, you don't have to believe anything crazy. You don't have to sacrifice goats. You don't have to be celibate or tithe your income. It's like a club I can really get behind. It's a real secular humanist vibe. And I'm really pumped about the Gallon Club. I'm donating a lot. Hold on. And yeah, I like this club so much. So I keep donating. Oh, the other piece of it is that I'm in my 20s during this time, so I'm dating a lot. And the men, you know, they're disrespectful and they'll ghost me. But the Gallon Club always wants my body. Specifically, my O-positive blood, which is a particular fetish for the Gallon Club. Always texting. So it's wonderful to be desired. When I'm 28, I've been donating now for 10 years at this point, and I go to do a routine donation in the Port Authority bus terminal. Sounds gross, but they have a very conveniently located blood drive spot there. So I'm in 28, and I'm at the Port Authority blood donation spot. And I clear the iron test. That's always the hardest part. You know, ladies know it's very hard to have high iron, but I'm in the Gallon Club. I'm a pro. I get it done. I'm over the iron threshold. I'm donating. I start pumping my feet in a little releve. That's a pro move. Some of you know it. You do. You're pumping your feet to get the donation to go faster. Going along. And then a trenchant weariness befalls me. More tired than I've ever been, and I feel myself falling through the gurney as if I'm falling through feathers into another realm. And I forget that I'm in the Gallon Club. My ego dissolves. I become light. And around me, I hear a play. No, not a play, a hospital drama. I hear people saying, get the ice pack, elevate her legs, go, get, drop what you're doing, come, everybody. And you won't believe it, but I see a light. And I think, am I supposed to go toward that? And then I'm like, what? No, I'm 28. I'm donating blood. This is insane. I can't die right now. And I feel ice pack under my neck. My legs get elevated, and then nothing. A period of time I cannot account for. I wake up in the employee lounge of the Port Authority blood donation. I didn't even know it was there. I'm on like a dormitory style couch. And when my eyes open, There's a nurse standing over me, and the first thing she says is, never come back here. Never donate blood. You are a liability. This is what I'm told by the spokesperson of the Gallon Club, where I have belonged. She didn't say anything like, hey, you might be surprised that there's an employee lounge back here. She just says, never come back. I'm now in a terrible mood. I mean, I'm like beyond dehydrated. It's like a blood hangover. I'm like really pissed. And they let me get up and eat Oreos, which helps. And there's such a bad vibe. Like, they clearly want me out of there. I don't know what happened. Maybe I was like mean while I was unconscious. I don't know. They just want me to leave, and that's very clear. But before I give them the satisfaction of leaving, I ask, what happened to my blood donation? And they say, you know, when a donation goes poorly, we dump it out. And I'm like, I hate waste. That's the whole reason I was doing this, to be a good person, to solve the world's ills. Like, how could you dump my blood donation? So I leave in a huff. I go to a bar in Midtown to replace with a full pint the half pint that I've lost. I'm good and buzzed immediately. That's the thing about donating blood. You can get drunk very fast. I call my mother, Margie. I tell her the story. And she says, it's really admirable you've been donating blood all this time, but you gotta stop. They obviously don't want you in the Gallon Club anymore. You have to take this intention to do good, this beautiful intention, and do something else with it. I finish my beer, and I'm like, what am I gonna do that's like the Gallon Club? What's my impact? What contribution can I make that's as pure and wonderful as donating blood? And to be honest, I spend the next 11 years asking that question. I haven't donated since, and I miss it. It was so cool, and I don't know what's like that. And I was thinking about this very Purim show. And I was thinking, how am I going to end this Gallon Club story? I was at CVS running the lines of this story thinking, well, what have I done that's as good and pure as donating blood? I'm in line at CVS. There's a woman about this far ahead of me in her early 30s, standing right here. She hands the pharmacist her credit card. She's talking to him. And then she goes down. She completely passes out. I've never seen anything like this. She goes from talking like a regular human being to, in slow motion, falling onto her back with her eyes closed, completely out. The pharmacist runs around. I run over to her. We're both over her. The pharmacist calls to his coworker and says, call 911. This woman is so bored. She's like, Siri, call 911. It's when I realized that this probably happens a lot. This woman starts having a tremor, starts shaking, and then her eyes open, and she says, I just donated blood. How did she know I was running lines for that? I mean, I was absolutely shocked. I was like, I was just thinking about this. What? And there's no one else in line behind me. This pharmacist says to his coworker, cancel the 911 call. I'm not sure about that. That's the move he made. And then this pharmacist lifts this woman to standing. And now I'm like, well, I'm the only adult in this CVS. You take 10 minutes of a first aid class. You don't lift someone who's just passed out and just lift them to standing. So I realized, like, I'm on duty. I'm the responsible person yet again. So I say, no, you have to come sit. You have to come sit. I put my hand on her shoulder. And then a voice speaks to me, both external and internal. It's a voice that comes to me and from me and through me, and I got goosebumps at the CVS, and I get goosebumps now. The voice said, I will be here with you because your mother can't be. Now, I don't know this woman. I don't know if her mom was 2 blocks away or had been dead for 10 years. But this was such a clear voice, and I felt so called to stay with her, and I felt such certainty that I was in the right, and I wasn't embarrassed, and I didn't care what's normal behavior on 14th Street and 8th Avenue. And she was very embarrassed. She was super pale, but you could see in her eyes this, oh, I'm not the kind of person who falls, and I'm not the kind of person who needs help, and I'm the kind of person who helps other people. I could read this in her face. And with my hand on her shoulder, I said, you can't run errands right now. You have to sit. And I said, what just happened was really scary. That's a really scary thing. And as the personality started to come back to her face, she looked up at me and she said, I think I'm just gonna sit for a while. And I said, I think that's good. I went to pick up my prescription, came back to her. I didn't really know how to end the conversation, so I said, thank you for donating blood. And I left the CVS with my prescription. She was still seated. I called my mother, Margie. I told her about this, and she said, why are people always donating blood and passing out in front of you? And I said, I don't know, but maybe I was made for these moments. And that's the reframe that I've come to. It's not just about one big moment of impact. It's about being in touch with your still small voice, being grounded and present enough that you can consistently be there at the right time, in the right place to do the right thing. And that's what I make of Maybe You Were Made for This Moment. And I thank you all for sharing this moment with me. All right, so join us March 26th and April 4th, and we'll tell some stories together. Thanks for having me, Temple Israel.